Okay, so let's go ahead and get started, everyone. Again, welcome to tonight's presentation, Turn Debt to Wealth. My name is Shantae Moore. I'm a certified financial educator. I'm happy to have everyone joining me live, but also, as you all know, I record pretty much every written presentation that I host. I'll have this up to share by tomorrow morning. But I'm really excited to continue this conversation. As I introduced about a month and a half ago, I started partnering with this company called MPowering America to offer debt relief solutions to my clients. Because in the past, I really didn't have any like hardcore strategies. I could always say, well, just pay a little bit more or pay this card off. And that was really it. But this company has some very unique solutions that a lot of folks could take advantage of to get immediate relief from their debt. So tonight, we're just going to go through some of the services that they offer. And if this is something that you're interested in later on down the line for yourself or our loved ones, you know how to reach me by however you receive the information to join tonight's webinar. So let's go ahead and get started. We should be here about 30 minutes or so. I like these presentations because they're pretty quick. But if you're logged on tonight, chances are, you're probably looking at how can I get some help with, some of my debt that I might be having. And at an Empowering America, they really do understand that having debt can be a huge financial burden. And I understand that because a lot of my clients, or it just even not someone, even if they don't become a client, a lot of folks come to me because they're like, I'm overwhelmed with debt, Shantae. I feel like I can't save, I can't invest, I can't do the things you teach about because I'm putting so much money toward debt. And it can be very scary as well when you really think about the unlimited, like I'm just stuck in this cycle of debt. And it puts limits on your financial situation as well. So, you're at the mercy of your creditors. It's just very hard to have any certainty about your financial future. And one misstep and your creditors, if you forget one payment, they'll call, they'll take you to court, they'll hit your credit report. So all those things can just cause a lot of anxiety, for pretty much anybody. But the reason why I like this company, Empowering America, is because, as I mentioned, they have options that are useful to folks to help them alleviate debt right away. So I want to just get started by showing you how to remove or at least lighten your debts, to where it's not as much as you see this big overarching mountain that you feel like you can never get rid of. But also while we free up extra cash flow, because that's what's important to me. Like, I know that if I can solve my clients' debt problems, then I can take that extra money that they've been putting toward their debt, and then I can help them invest. I can help them save for their kids or save for retirement, whatever that might be. So, in today's presentation, I'll also talk a little bit about how to take that extra cash flow that we could potentially free up so that you can use it to build your wealth. And so I really hope by the end of the presentation, you at least have some hope and you can see like, okay, there are actual resources. I see some light at the end of the tunnel, and as I talk about this stuff, just think about would any of these processes work for me? So, changing the way you think you can transform, your outlook on life. It can also change your future. And just consider the different ways that you have available to approach debt. Because when debt causes stress, it's easy to feel, a feeling of hopelessness, and again, that anxiety, that frustration, that anger even. But again, where does that get you? Where does it get you financially when we look at the dollars? So if we could really look at options that could change your circumstances completely and, just magically remove all of that debt, I think you'll be able to understand that if you take advantage of some of this information, you not only will you see some hope, but you'll also see that there's a positive outlook as well. So first, by helping, find a plan and putting a plan together, that's really what the work is here that we're talking about. It's a debt to wealth mindset that starts with relieving your debt first. And then, okay, now I could put a plan in place and now I can have a new trajectory. And you really want to just have a plan that'll point you to a brighter future. It takes away all that stress, all that anxiety, to where you can actually reach a place of financial peace. But again, it all starts with a plan. So at Empowering America, they have a seven-step plan that can turn your debt into wealth. And regardless of your current situation, you can follow these steps to start building wealth. And I'm glad you're here on this webinar just to start learning the details about how to do that. So first of all, step one is just showing up. Congratulations to you all. You showed up today, because I truly believe we have to just own what we're dealing with. And some people just ignore it. It's just the pink elephant in the room. The first step is just understanding I need to get financially educated and look for solutions. So now let's cover the actual 6 steps and talk about a strategy. So your debt relief strategy is critical to turn debt to wealth. Choose the right strategy, and then you're on the path to financial weightlessness. You choose the wrong strategy, and then there's a strong likelihood that you could make your debt situation even worse. And we realized that, again, to serve families, the individuals who actually need it the most, we really have to play offense. You need strategies that can actually reduce your debt or completely remove the debt balances, that you might hold. So Empowering America, they use a system called VAST. That's V as in Victor, AST. And VAST is like a suite of strategies, unlike anything else that I've seen by other debt management companies who offer just, like one way of going about tackling debt. So in conjunction, again, with our affiliate partner, Empowering America, we offer multiple ways to reduce the size of your debt. Obviously, if you have a smaller debt balance, you have smaller monthly payments. So I'm going to go through some of the options that can take your unpayable debt, and immediately grind it down to something that's more manageable for you. So in any of these vast strategies, they can help you complete steps 2, 3, and 4 of turning debt to wealth, which is, again, choosing the strategy, executing a plan, and freeing up your cash. And if you suddenly have, money at your disposal every month, it's true that now you can actually take that cash flow to serve its actual purpose, which is to protect your family and to build your wealth. Now, traditional approaches to dealing with debt combine, denial and defense, but they all come with heavy consequences. So again, like I mentioned, ignoring your debt altogether, it might feel convenient, for the short term, but it still has long-term impact that can be, that can ruin not only your financial health, but your mental health. I can't tell you how many people who I meet are stressed by constant, creditors calling them, constant mailing saying they're past due. That stuff is very stressful, and it does impact folks' mental health. And then eventually your creditors can take legal action against you. So debt consolidation, it can be a useful strategy for smaller debts, but there does come to a point when the total debt that you have is just too large to try to even consolidate. So the negative with consolidation is that you're not actually removing the debt. You're simply just moving the debt from multiple loans to a single loan and then restarting the term to repay that debt. So that process, it doesn't eliminate your debt, it actually extends your debt. And we believe that there are better methods that can remove the debt and create that cash flow that I keep talking about. Filing for bankruptcy can void your debt. But the flip side, it could be like starting over. You're basically hitting rock bottom. You have bad credit, credit history. It'll be reported very badly there. You might have vehicle repossession. You might have court orders that require, court monitored budgeting. So bankruptcy is appropriate in certain cases, but there are other less dramatic options that don't require you to take such a financial hit. So the common thread that you see here is that traditional strategies can leave you in a worse position than where you were before. They can turn your debt into either more debt avoidance, a massive, debt blob, which is consolidation, or a life-altering misfortune, which is bankruptcy. And that's not what most people have in mind when they think of financial security or a brighter financial future. So let's explore each of these vast strategies in detail, and we'll start with debt validation. So with debt validation, this strategy leverages federal law, which is requiring creditors to provide proof that the law has been followed while they're trying to collect the debt that they claim that you owe. And ultimately, if the creditors can't provide proof that the debt, has been collected under the law, then the debt can actually be invalidated. So during your program, if this was an option that you chose to take advantage of, you'll actually work with an affiliate law firm of MPowering America. The law firm, lawyers will actually contact your creditors, your lenders, or the collection agencies. And then a process begins to validate or invalidate the debts. Now, if you had any missteps, by your creditor or collection agency, your debt ultimately is not collectible. So during this process, that's the point of the lawyers trying to determine, did they miss any one little part of their debt collection procedures to invalidate your debt completely? So during this process, you start a new payment program, and it is usually about 45% of the debt you owe. So automatically from the start, this drastically reduces your payment. And the validation program, it often results in a temporary hit to your credit score. However, the legal process during the program forces the creditors to remove most of the derogatory remarks that are associated with any debts that they have on your credit report. And any issues that's not within the purview of the program, they could be remedied with MPowering America. They have a credit repair software and systems. So ultimately, they'll go back behind your credit report and actually clean it up for anything that they're not able to get off by the validation process. So again, either way, your scores can ultimately be corrected. Now let's consider assumption. So assumption begins by taking on debt with the client via a power of attorney. So with this one, and I actually never heard of this process before I started, getting resources about this company. So what happens is the agency submits a new debt contract to your creditor. So let's say I have $50,000 worth of debt. This agency also says, well, Shante, we'll assume that $50,000 of debt with you. And then the agency goes to our creditors and say, hey, this is a new contract. This new contract and its terms are in favor of me, the client, and not the creditor. And over 98% of the time, the creditor will accept the new contract terms. But the thing is, they typically won't follow them. And when the creditor breaks that contract, the new contract that, me and the agency went to create, that's when fines and penalties can actually be assessed against the creditor. And over time, those fines will eventually offset the original debt that we took on. So if I had, again, let's say $50,000, we present a new contract, the creditor agrees to that contract, but they don't follow it, they could accumulate probably over $50,000 in fines and fees. So ultimately, 90% of creditors will then take that debt and sell it off to a collection agency. So when that occurs, the creditors are now exposed to proving or validating the debts. And in most cases, the debts are dismissed and they are deemed uncollectible. So, and then again, for the small percentage of debts, maybe 1 or 2 counts out of every 100 accounts that are challenged, a negotiation can also be completed to minimize the debt owed. So most creditors are sensible enough to cut their losses and either settle the debt altogether or forgive it entirely. So again, this is a whole new type of process that I had never heard of, but it makes sense, when you think about it and how this strategy can be used. So let's say validation doesn't make sense and the assumption process doesn't make sense, then settlement is often a viable option. And a settlement agency will negotiate with your creditors on your behalf. And the goal of that negotiation is to reduce your balance and decrease your monthly payments. So while the agency negotiates, they'll have you set aside money every month into a custodial savings account, meaning it's owned by someone else and managed by someone else. But you'll be able to use that money to pay off your debts as they become settled after they go through the negotiation process and the settlement amount is determined. But settlement does carry, risk, and not all creditors, they won't negotiate. But most creditors do recognize that it's far better to settle with you than try and waste resources trying to attempt to collect the whole entire balance. And settlement by law requires that you show that you are in a financial hardship and that you cannot pay the debts at full value. So while settlement, again, is not the optimal solution, it does still achieve the main goal of VAST, which is to reduce your debt, decrease your monthly payments, and make your unpayable debt manageable while reducing the time that you have to pay, and eliminating those interests and penalties that you actually owe. So the first three strategies of VAST are designed to help with private debts. But what if the IRS comes knocking on your door? And then that's where this final strategy of VAST comes into play, which is tax debt assistance. The Empowering America, they'll put you in contact with their tax debt partner. They'll review your financial situation, how much you owe, and whether you qualify for an IRS tax relief program. And if you qualify, they'll negotiate with the IRS on your behalf. And if successful, the IRS may actually lower your tax liability that you owe to them, also including the penalties and interest. Because I tell folks, one thing about IRS and state taxes, do not owe them, pay them all, because penalties and interest will add up. But anyway, just remember that while, Empowering America and their partners, are highly qualified and they have resolved over $800 million in tax debt, they can't guarantee results. But nonetheless, procrastination with tax debt, again, it's the enemy of your financial future, because those penalties and interest will continue to accumulate, and it can get out of hand very quickly. And when you think about the IRS tax code, there's over 75,000 pages in the whole entire code itself. So it's best to consider, using this strategy where you have trained staff, attorneys, and a CPA who will probably jump in to assist in getting your tax debt resolved as soon as possible. So again, VAST shows 4 different scenarios. All are completely different. And it is an effective strategy that works. And, even when clients can't completely erase their balances, their debt burdens are often far lighter after working with one of Empowering America's programs. And, ultimately, the goal is to have the ability to reduce and have your federal student loans forgiven. That's also an option. So as an example here, consider Renee. Renee had $22,000 of debt enrolled in the validation program. Now, before validation, her minimum payment to service that debt was $660 a month. And then after validation, her payment was $275 a month. Now, that's a monthly savings of $385. And the total balance on the original, $22,000 was reduced to $9,900. So now Renee will be out of debt in 3 years instead of 23 years and 6 months. And that's what the option of using one of these VAST programs really, really offers. Having an end goal in mind, knowing that I'll have this paid off, it'll be wiped out, and I won't have to worry about anymore. You really get a lot of that peace of mind. And knowing that you change your financial trajectory, to increase your finances. So the VAST strategies complete steps 2, 3, and 4 of the 7-step plan to turn your debt to wealth. They also mark a transition in your journey. Eliminating your debts can free up a significant chunk of your income. Like, that's what we ultimately want, right? Like, to stop putting all this money towards your debt. But this is where it gets really fun. That freed up cash is now how you'll complete steps 5 and 6 in protecting your income and building your wealth. And so even though lowering or eliminating debt, is exciting, this is really the point where people can't get intimidated, because many people are so traumatized by their experience with debt that it's overwhelming to even think about building wealth because it seems complicated. It still seems unattainable. And most people simply don't know how money works. They don't know where to start. But obviously, if you know me or if you've connected with me in the past, you know that I use this book here as a secret weapon, well, really a not so secret weapon. How Money Works, Stop Being a Sucker, because I believe it's probably one of the best financial education tools that I've come across in my many, many years of doing this work, which is, folks need to become financially literate. And How Money Works is the first, it's the first of any financial book that really anyone at any age can enjoy and benefit from. Literally from age 10 all the way to age 100. And right now, I always tell folks, my 12-year-old, soon to be 13-year-old daughter has been reading this book, and they understand the financial concepts because it's written at a 5th grade level. And, speaking of the number 100, the book has been featured all over, media, all over media. It's been on prominent TV shows, including CNBC, CBS, ABC, and Fox. The How Money Works book has also been given a rare endorsement from the Heartland Institute of Financial Education. I actually started my educating work with that nonprofit. I'm still associated to them, but I'm happy that they put their stamp on the book, because this national nonprofit, that's all they do is teach financial literacy. And it's been reviewed and referenced all over the internet, including the popular online financial publication Make It by CNBC. So if you're interested in learning more about this financial literacy campaign, you can follow How Money Works on Instagram. They'll share practical tips and helpful resources. And if you haven't gotten a copy of the book, just let me know. I always keep one right next to me because I reference it so many times in my meetings that I have throughout the day. But if you haven't received one from me, just let me know and I will send you a free copy in the mail. There's no obligation for that. All I ask is that you actually read it. Don't use it as a coaster on your table or anything like that, because there's a cost to me to send it, but I don't put that on you all. But anyway, at the heart of the book, again, are the 7 money milestones. And it's really your step-by-step action plan designed to help you chart the course of where am I starting with my finances and where do I actually need to go so you can become financially secure and also financially independent. And the good thing is that, no one is too far ahead or too far behind to benefit from these milestones. I use them as guides with my clients to, help them figure out what steps do we need to work on next when it comes to their overall financial situation. So as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to eliminating that debt and freeing up that extra cash flow, now we can transition towards building wealth. And that's what steps 5 and 6 of our 7-step plan, adopted from these milestones, specifically addressed for all of our clients. Now, both of these steps are critical components, again, of giving you that financial peace that you'll receive after that post-debt life, after getting rid of the debt. So first of all, your first objective after reducing your debt and freeing cash flow, like what should you do? Now that I have this extra cash available to me, what should I do? You should do what step 5 says, which is to protect your income. Now, most people are like, wait a minute, Shantae, not invest it, not save it, protect your income. You'll need to set a guard in place for yourself and your family from a possible future loss of income or a future loss of savings, really before you begin the rest of your journey. I have folks who come to me, they're like, I want to invest all this money, I'm interested in this and that. And I'm like, well, do you have, money saved in case you have a loss of your job or any, major changes to your income? They're like, no. And I'm like, well, if you start with an investment right away, and if some tragic, life altering situation happens, you're going to have to sell off your investment. So that's why we talk about this step 5, protect your income first. Because let's say, for example, if you were to pass away prematurely, your family is no longer receiving your income that they're used to living off of and sustaining their lifestyle, in addition to losing you as a person. And ultimately, a lot of people don't have enough savings in place to take care of their family, that they leave behind. Pretty much most people have no savings in place. And so then if something happened to you, again, because that income is no longer there, you might be finding yourself, getting your family actually going right back into that debt that you worked so hard to get rid of. So the protection aspect of protect your income, it actually comes in the form of life insurance. And most people, again, are like, life insurance. Like, yes, this is the first thing you should do with any extra income that you have, is seeking proper protection in the form of life insurance. And how much life insurance should you have? That answer is different for everyone. It's totally based on your situation. However, as a general rule of thumb, we typically recommend you having at least 10 times your annual family income. So for example, let's say you earn $50,000 a year, you should consider $500,000 in coverage. And, we know that if something were to happen to you, that will replace your income to your family. Now, just like with so many other things, life insurance, they have a lot of options out there. It seems really complex at first. But once you know a little, it becomes far simpler. To start, it's important to understand that all life insurance usually falls into two basic categories: temporary and permanent. And we'll look at term life insurance first, which provides coverage for a specified period of time, like a 10, 20, 30-year period of time. This is actually the most affordable life insurance that's available because it provides, you're paying basically for the insurance coverage. It's like having car insurance. You hope you have it and hope you don't have to use it. And then if you pass away, your family gets that death benefit, if, as long as you pass away within that actual term. Now we can actually look at permanent life insurance. Like term insurance, it does provide a death benefit, to protect your family financially. However, permanent insurance is designed to be kept and protect you for your entire lifetime, not just a period of time like term insurance. This most permanent policies will actually go up to age 120, again, your entire lifetime, to protect yourself. Now, there are 3 important benefits of having permanent life insurance. Number 1 is that, again, you get the life insurance protection for your entire lifetime. 2, with many permanent life policies, you can add long-term care, terminal illness, and chronic illness as optional benefits to take advantage of. Those benefits would, like we call riders in life insurance, they actually help protect you against, if you had health issues that you can't plan for, but, that could very well pop up. I've seen recently, 30-year-olds having heart attacks, very just tragic things happening. They didn't pass away, but now they're, they can't work and they're, life is different for them. So having that if they had life insurance with those benefits for those illnesses, they actually would have coverage now. But number 3, another benefit is the number 3 right here, which is having some ability to accumulate cash value inside the policy, which allows you some flexibility with paying your policy premiums. Meaning, let's say you've accumulated, let's say $5,000 in cash inside your policy. And for whatever reason, you can't pay your life insurance premium, which is the monthly cost that you pay. The insurance policy will actually be able to take money out of your cash value and continue and use that to pay your monthly premium until you're able to get back and pay that. But let's say you don't have to do that. Your cash value, what will happen is that it'll just grow over the life of your policy. And one reason I really, really like cash value life insurance is because it also, not only does it grow, you can get some pretty significant growth. If the market goes negative, you actually don't lose. That growth is always locked in. So it's a really cool feature. This one slide, honestly, is an hour-long presentation in itself, just to really go into the depths of permanent life insurance. And if you're interested in that, let me know. I can send you a link to a presentation I did for that. But let's talk about step 6, which is start building wealth. Um, After we've freed up the extra cash, we protected our income. Now we can get to the sexy side of money, which I call, actually building our wealth. Because again, that looks very different for different folks. But, I just kind of want to look at it from like a retirement perspective first, because that's ultimately the big goal that most folks are saving, money for or trying to invest it for. The fact is that life expectancy has been steadily increasing since 1960. And that means you have more time to enjoy with your family, traveling, pursuing your hobbies. More time sounds great, but the literal $1 million question is, how will you afford that retirement that you really want? And honestly, a 401k and Social Security will only get you so far. The rest will really depend on what personal savings that you have put into place and the wealth that you have accumulated. And that's why becoming debt free is so important, because only then, when you have that extra cash flow, can you actually reposition your money to start building wealth so that you can have the lifestyle that you desire in retirement. And those wealth building strategies are really simple. When I sit down with clients, everybody's situation is different, but I'm always looking at different strategies, that leverages ways that they can grow their money tax free. That again, are there ways we can invest our money where we're protected from losses? And there really are places where you don't have to lose money. Some folks just say, you know what, I just want a steady, reliable income in retirement. Great. There's ways that we could do that. And again, leaving a financial legacy. I always think about, what am I leaving behind to my children? Because I knew I came from a family that passed on debt from generation to generation. I want to pass on wealth. I know I will. I'll be passing on wealth moving forward. I'm happy to make that turn that tide for my family. In superstar icons, Prince and Aretha Franklin, both of them who just died a few years ago, they had some really sizable estates. But neither of them had an estate plan. We did an estate planning workshop last night through my office, which was awesome. And we talk about leaving that legacy part. How do we transfer our assets? How do I transfer the wealth that I worked so hard to accumulate, to my family? So it's also important that, again, we protect our wealth as well. And that's with an estate plan. According to a Rocket Law survey, 64% of Americans don't have a will. And that's like the most basic document that everybody should have. And not surprising, that number is higher for younger Americans. 70% of those aged 45 to 54 don't have a will. And then for older Americans, 54% of them, those aged 55 to 64, don't have a will. And with that, that's when you really arrive at step 7, which we call the empowered life. Really empowered because you won't be struggling against the burden of debt. Empowered because, the whims of being under control of creditors will be gone. Empowered because you protected your income for your loved ones, regardless of what happens to you. And again, empowered because you have a plan for the future that's really worth fighting for. So as I wrap up, I think I have 1 or 2 more slides here. I just want to end with this quote. Growth is painful, change is powerful, but nothing is as painful as staying stuck somewhere you don't belong. You know you don't belong in debt. But if you don't have a realistic path that leads from, the endless maze of debt, to bringing you to the hope of financial security and independence, what do? I say, see if Empowering America is an option for you. It may or may not be. It could be a way out. I don't know. We could do a consultation. We'll talk about that in the next moment. But, I just say, see if one of the strategies could work for you, because they really give you the step-by-step directions on how to turn your debt into wealth. So if you're interested again in looking at is Empowered America's available for me, what we do is we do 30-minute phone consultations with them. I'll have you schedule that with me on my calendar. I'll send a link. I think I can post a link real quick into the chat box if anyone wants to take advantage of that. But what we do is we basically get on the phone together. I'll be on three-way. I'll be muted, but they have qualifying specialists who will kind of just ask you really basic questions about your debt, and they'll give you an idea of which one of those vast strategies would actually work for you, whether it's the validation, the assumption, the settlement, or if you have those IRS tax issues, they'll let you know, and you'll get a one-page summary of what they could potentially offer. There's no commitments, there's no obligation. Again, it's just an opportunity to see what services they could potentially offer. So let me post that link in the chat box real quickly. Anybody have any questions about Empowering America? Again, this is a new program, still brand new to me, but I've been on a couple phone calls with them and they're pretty great.
I do have a quick question, Shantae.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I think that you mentioned it briefly, but is this a viable alternative for people who have student debt?
Yes. So if you have, they do look at student loan debt as well, to see, if they can get some of that relief for you. And I believe they do it, whether it's the private loans or the public loans, like from the Department of Education, that they can help you with either option. So, but they do look at student loan debt as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, you're welcome. That's it from me. I'm glad that you all were able to join. Again, I will send out this recording. I'll post it onto my YouTube channel as well. If you're not following me on YouTube, please like and subscribe. But I'll send you all the link. And again, if this is something you want to take advantage of, just let me know. Literally, we're on the phone with the Empowering America qualifying specialist for 22 minutes. That's what they said, 22 minutes, that's it. And they'll give you a follow-up one pager with everything that they could offer. So I always say, hey, just see. You're not obligated to anything. So that's it for me. Thank you all for joining. I'm going to give you back some of your time. I appreciate you all continuing to support and join me for some more webinars. I think I might host one or two more before the end of the year. All right, ladies, have a good one.